Nathalie, throughout her program, I think there's a number of things that were really helpful for me. One was to have an overall framework where I knew we had the container of 10 sessions and that it was being guided, there was a direction. So for me, that was really helpful. It made it feel like we don't have to get into everything all at once, and there was space to do look at the different individual aspects. And I trusted that there was this direction. I think Nathalie holds the space and she speaks with confidence. I got a clear sense that she was holding a direction for me. And I think there was even one session where, kind of finished with me like, oh yeah, and how am I going to practice this? And she was like, oh, hold on, that'll all be taken care of. And then you get the practices to take away and do it in between sessions. So that was helpful. For that framework, that having the practices in between sessions where we'd worked on something and then there was some guidance, because even though I do a lot of this work with other people, I felt like I didn't have to do it all. Someone else was holding space for me throughout this whole process, and that was just I think beyond reassuring. It was almost into blissful, being held over a long process. And then also there's just a lot of little mini moments and insights and ahas where specifically Natalie's, her own ability to really listen deeply and really feel into what was going on and be able to guide me somatically into feelings that were so entrenched in me from childhood that I didn't know what it was like to not have them, so I couldn't even see out to see in. But Nathalie was that person on the outside seeing to me, and then being able to release some of that was just gorgeous. And her knowledge of this specific area around intimacy and sexuality and her own journey and experience meant that she could feed back with confidence on some issues that would have been really quite unsettling to be exploring these things, in terms of me being in a marriage, and some big fears came up around some of the specifics of what we were looking at, if they got opened, if they didn't get opened, and what was going to happen in my real life. And having Nathalie's insight and allowing me to be utterly, completely honest and work through those was just invaluable. So in terms of specific revelations and transformation, in a way, there's been a few. Obviously, they're all interlinked, because it's me that's been transforming. But there was aspects of some of the kind of work with my own mother and father relationship that I've done a lot of work on already, but revisiting that, with this specific focus on developing intimacy, and Nathalie's own pair of ears and eyes and heart meant that there was more layers, some deeper layers released, which has definitely meant that some of the still childhood parts of me that were scared, that a definite kind of one of the bits was around this feeling of being unwanted. So it's really difficult to develop intimacy if you feel unwanted, and having that heard and listened to, and being able to release that has had a big impact, not only on the specific relationship I was really looking to work on, which was in my family with my husband and my daughter, but it's had a big ripple out into my relationships out into the world, almost any relationship. And then I would say another one is kind of on the back of that, having a mirror held up for me about where I was in terms of my sexual thriving, in a very compassionate, non-judgmental space, meant that I could kind of give it a number, say this is where I'm at, and then to identify the next steps of where I wanted to go to, and really awaken the feelings in me of what it would be like to be there, has supported me to, well, it's opened that door for me to step into that and embody that. And I'm definitely living at a couple of steps up in terms of my sexual thriving, my whole feeling of vitality and confidence, and health, the whole, everything, because that sexual energy is so linked to every part of us, that I definitely feel like I've stepped up, and it's supporting my health, it's supporting my business, it's supporting relationships at home. So it's definitely an all-encompassing big transformation. I would say for me, in this journey, I guess whatever aspect of ourselves we're looking to heal at, there tends to be a fair amount of vulnerability and shame. And similarly for me, around the my sexual well-being, or my sexual, where it felt throughout a lot of my life, my lack of sexuality or my lack of sexual energy, there was, didn't feel good. I felt like, I've often felt like, what's wrong with me? And maybe I just don't have it. So in terms of space holding for that, it was really important for me to feel really safe. That, everything that's included in that, from being non-judgmental, but just to being heard. I think when you start to open up and share something, and you receive acknowledgement, and you're fed back what you've said from a really, not just non-judgmental, but from an also empowering point of view, where someone, I don't think Nathalie ever looked fazed by anything that I said. There was compassion there, but there was also just, you could see there was a recognition in her that this wasn't really so unusual. So that, there was definitely a deep presence, a deep listening, an ability to get into energetic feelings. Not even, one of the sessions we really worked on just like this energetic feeling around my heart that I've carried for so long, or I had carried for so long, that without Nathalie's ability to draw attention to that and work on it and stay with it, that wouldn't have released. So she holds a very safe space, and equally an empowering one, where you are gently encouraged to go deeper, to activate next levels, but never pushed in a. I never felt any sense of discomfort or kind of. I didn't really question where she was taking me. It felt very easy to hand over, not in a not like dropping my responsibility, but to feel enough trust to surrender to the process that she was leading me through. Yeah, I guess if you're thinking of exploring into this aspect of your life that is around intimacy, potentially around sexuality, is around relationships, know that it's going to have an impact in all areas of your life. I guess that energy around connection and sexuality is so much of our innate life force that it's going to ripple out, and the benefits are going to keep building and building beyond even what you might expect, whether it's in one relationship or an area of your life. It will ripple out into all areas, and it can seem at the beginning that it's a big process, or a big outlay to commit to, but there's a reason for that. There's a wisdom in the direction she's taking this journey in, and if you want to feel supported in going there and have the confidence and actually really make deep changes, then I would recommend this as a way of working, and I would recommend Nathalie as a practitioner and as a person with a huge amount of experience and insight and skill and presence to be taking the journey with.